Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Paul and I wanted to talk today about the playoff grid. NASCAR is currently on a 1 week break between the Fox portion of the season is now over and now NBC is about to take over. There are 10 races left into the playoffs and I thought now would be a good time to look at the playoff grid, kind of go through the drivers that are currently in it. I'm just doing this for the Cup Series today, so if you're looking for Xfinity or trucks, this is not the video to watch, but these are for the Cup guys. So I think the best way to start off is talk about the 4 guys who, no matter what happens, we could have 20 different winners, which I don't think is possible anymore because there's only 10 races left in the regular season. But even if we went over the 16 driver limit, these 4 guys are locked in no matter what happens. It's William Byron, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kyle Larson. All 4 of these guys have had really good seasons, of course. Byron and Busch are tied to lead the series in wins with 3 apiece. Byron's also second in points. Truex and Larson are tied with 2 wins apiece. Truex, of course, winning last week. Larson got a couple wins on short tracks earlier this year at Martinsville and Richmond. These guys are completely safe at this point. They're just trying to build up playoff points. They're actually first, second, third, and fifth in playoff points. Blaney's in between Larson in terms of that. But these guys just want to build up playoff points. These right now, I would say, are the championship favorites. Maybe throw Blaney in there too, despite the fact Blaney only has 1 win. These guys have all had amazing seasons. And honestly, like guys like Larson could have like 7 wins at this point in the year. He has 5 DNFs, which is insane. And only his 10th points, but he's been running up front. Like he could have won Kansas. Ran well at Bristol Dirt. Things went wrong there. DNF'd. Was running okay at Talladega. Got caught up in a crash. Basically, his last few weeks, at least before, I think, like, Gateway, it was basically either he won or he wrecked for, like, a month and a half. Truex has been great this year, back to form. Last year was a decent year for him. Of course, he missed the playoffs, which sucked and didn't win. But when you look at it, he was 4th in points. Like, in regular season points at the finale, he should have made the playoffs over some of the guys who didn't. He's just back to his winning form. 2 wins already this year. I would not be surprised if they had a 3rd or a 4th over the summer. And then Busch and Byron, both having amazing starts to the year. You can't really criticize them. Busch is off to a crazy good start with his new team. They look dangerous. This 8 car has won 6 races over the past 2 seasons. They look amazing. And the 24 car, Byron started out hot last year. He's keeping the consistency, though, which he did not have last year. I think he went into the playoffs with less top 10s than he currently has with 9. I think he had like 5 when he went to the playoffs last year. So keep that consistency, and Byron should be up there. I would honestly probably expect all these guys in the Final Four, or not the Final Four, in the round of 8. Of course, things can go crazy, but these are definitely the best drivers so far this season in terms of just winning speed and stuff like that. So next we're going to go to all the guys that have won at least 1 race this year, which is Blaney, Bell, Hamlin, Logano, Reddick, and Stenhouse Jr. All of these guys are currently in the top 16 in points, which is pretty amazing. Blaney's 3rd, the highest of anyone, which Stenhouse being the worst of them in 14th. I think we can just go from the top. So yeah, Blaney, he's been amazing, super consistent, just like he was last year. He finally broke through, got that win. I would like to see maybe another win or so before I declare him a championship favorite. He was my preseason pick for the championship, so I definitely still believe in him to get that done. But yeah, I would like to see him possibly win another race. One thing that's very impressive is he has 0 DNFs so far this year, which looking through the field, he's one of very few that have done that so far this season. 9 top 10s, which is tied for the most with Bell, Busch, and Byron. He has only 4 top 5s, which could be a little better. He's led almost over 300 laps, won a pair of stages. He's had a really good season so far, and he could definitely jump up there and win another race before the regular season's over, and is definitely probably one of the title favorites. Then we got the JGR teammate, the Bell and Hamlin. Bell won at Bristol Dirt and Hamlin won at Kansas. Both of them had okay years. Hamlin's not been super consistent, only 6 top 10s. But he has won 3 stages. Bell's been a little more consistent, but has not won stages. He's currently has not won a stage at all this year. A little disappointed with these two guys, especially Bell after his end to last season. Of course, ended with 3 wins last year, and two of his wins came in the last 5 races. It's still really early. He didn't get his first win until July last year. He could definitely go on a run and be a title favorite, but I'm optimistic with him. But he just has not been running as well as I would have expected him to run. Hamlin is much more consistent than he was last year, I would say. He's had some good races, had some not so good races, but he's been pretty competitive. He's always a threat to win, it seems like. He should be fine. Same thing with Logano. He won Atlanta. He's kind of had a weird year. He has 3 DNFs already. But he'll be fine. He's gonna make the playoffs. These guys are not. I'm not worried about anybody not winning and not making it. I don't think we'll get that many winners this year. We're at, I think I count 10 winners. Yeah, I think there are 10 winners so far this season. Which, that means there are 6 spots up for grabs. Which isn't a ton, but compared to last year, we had 1 spot. So we would need to have a new winner in half of the races to end this season. And I honestly don't know if many of the guys that are not in the playoffs currently can win and jump up. Next up, we have Tyler Reddick. Reddick won Coda. He's been good at some races, but then has been disastrous at others. A little disappointed with his lack of consistency so far, but he also wasn't that last year, and he won 3 races last year. And if things fell right at Bristol last year, he would have made it to the round of 8 easily with his win at Texas. Just say I'm a little disappointed in 23XI. I thought he'd be a lot better than this. But it wasn't until the summer last year where he really turned on. I think he was outside the playoffs at this point of last season. And then he won the 2 races over the summer and was really, really good. So I'm ready to see what he'll do over the summer. And then Ricky Stenhouse, I am super impressed with Ricky this season. No doubt about it. 2 top 5s, 5 top 10s. He's just been amazing. In the top 16 of points, straight up would make, if we just took the top 16 guys, he would be in the playoffs right now. He's having an amazing season. He should be congratulated for that. It's not that easy to do. He's had a rough few years, but he's in a really good spot, and I would hope that he doesn't get bumped out if we do somehow have a bunch of new winners over the next few weeks. So now we're going to go into the guys who are currently in on points. The first 2 are Chastain and Harvick, both over 170 points above the cutoff. These guys really don't have to worry unless they fall off a cliff or if several new guys win. These guys are 4th and 5th in points. They are in really, really good spots, and I would not be worried if I was either of those guys. They've both been amazing this season. Harvick's been carrying his team on his back. Stewart Haas, at least, they've been just carrying Stewart Haas. I would expect Chastain to win before the playoffs. Being realistic, it's been over a year since Ross's last win. I would like to see them win a race before the playoffs to be a title favorite at least. But his consistency's been amazing this year. Last few weeks have been rough, but overall he's been really good. Harvick, I honestly don't think he'll win, but I do think he'll make the playoffs. But there's also those tracks that he could just go out and dominate like he did last year at Michigan and Richmond. Both those tracks are coming up. New Hampshire's coming up, another really good track for him. Harvick could definitely win. I don't see it happening, but I do think he'll make the playoffs. Next up is the RFK duo, Buescher and Keselowski. They're plus 102 for Buescher and 96 for Keselowski. Another 2 have had amazing years. I think it's gonna be tough to see them miss the playoffs. I think it'll be disappointing to see either of them miss the playoffs. They've both been super deserving of making it this year. I could see it happening if they don't run super well. Over the next few weeks, we always could see a summer collapse. I don't really see it happening, though. They've been super consistent. And the guys behind them aren't guys I would really trust to jump up above them right now. At least apart from one guy, which we'll get to later. I don't see the other guys jumping above them with the gap they've built already. Yeah, I would expect these 2 to be fine. Unless, like I said, we start rallying off new winners. And the cutoff moves up to around 11th or 12th, which I think is definitely a realistic possibility. Next up, we have Bubba Wallace, who's plus 26. Bubba's having a good year. I would have expected more. He has 5 DNFs, which is insane for how high in points he is. That's by far the most out Actually, Larson has more. But besides Larson, no one else has that many that's within the top 20 in points. See Austin Dillon way down at the bottom. He has 5 DNFs too. And same does Noah Gragson. But like of the guys who are in the top 20 points, it's only him and Larson. Which that's a little discouraging. They've been really good the past few weeks though. Sonoma wasn't their thing, but that's also just because Bubba's not a great road course racer. There's 2 super speedways coming up. He hasn't been great at Atlanta, but you could definitely win Daytona. I wouldn't be surprised. He got really hot in the summer last year. I remember he got like a 3rd at New Hampshire. I think he ran well at Pocono. He had like a good streak of races. Qualified on pole at Michigan, finished 2nd. Like he could definitely get a win at one of those places, lock himself in the playoffs for the first time in his career, which I would be hoping for. And then the last guy who's in right now is Alex Bowman. Bowman's the only guy I can see jumping up above like Buescher and Keselowski. He was the one I was mentioning earlier. He missed a few races, but he's still in the top 16 in points. They've been super consistent when he's running. He's almost finished. He has 6 top 10s in 13 races. They haven't DNF'd a race yet. I would like to see them show a little more race winning speed. They haven't done that yet. But in terms of consistency, the 48 team's been on it this year. There's no doubt in my mind that this team will be in the playoffs come September. So those are the 16 guys that are currently in the playoffs. Now here's where it gets interesting. Now we're going to talk about I think there are 17 guys who are playoff eligible that's not in the playoffs currently. From Daniel Suarez in 17th all the way down to Noah Gragson 33rd. So I'm going to start off with Suarez. I was pretty disappointed last week with how bad they were at Sonoma. I know he made a mistake early and they got them behind the rest of the race, but I would say I'm worried for them, especially because I think at this point, for most drivers, assuming everything goes as we think it will, you're looking to pass Bubba Wallace in points if you want to point your way in, unless we get guys outside of that winning. I think Bowman's going to jump up above Bubba and probably above Keselowski and Buescher before the playoff cut line. So when you're really comparing guys like Suarez, Gibbs, McDowell into pointing their way, and you want to compare them to Bubba Wallace, and honestly, I don't know if I trust Daniel Suarez to pass Bubba Wallace in points. Daniel's a little more consistent. He hasn't DNF'd as much, but when Bubba's on it, he's gotten 4 top 5s this year, which Daniel only has 1. They have the same amount of top 10s. Daniel does have some good tracks coming up. He's run well. He ran well over the summer last year, namely at Michigan. I remember he ran really well. And I know he's run decent in the past in New Hampshire. Pocono has always been a really good track for him, so he could definitely score a win. But I would be worried about the 99 team winning before the playoffs, and I think they probably will, unless the 23 team really struggles. Because when worst case, one of these guys below them win in Atlanta, Daytona, or in the case of like a Chase Elliott, just win at any track that they could. There's a few guys who I think could win on speed, basically anywhere. Chase is, of course, one of them. I would hope at least he could win on speed anywhere. So like those guys, I would expect. I think this is going to get dicey for the guys right outside the playoff grid because you're not competing with Bowman realistically based on Bowman's form this year. Bowman's run 3 less races than everyone else around him, and he's still ahead of all the guys outside the playoffs. So you're really competing with Wallace, and then after Wallace, it's 70 points up to Keselowski. So you really need to watch Wallace. If one of those guys wins, you really need to jump up because Keselowski, like Suarez is 99 points behind Keselowski, I believe, which is rough. Or 96 ahead of Keselowski. He's 96 behind Keselowski, sorry. And then everyone else is over 100. So like, unless you're going to make up these points, you need to find a place to win, and soon. Ty Gibbs is 18th. Ty's had a good rookie year. He had those, I think it was 4 straight top 10s. He only has 4 top 10s this year. I know he got a bunch in a row. I'd like to see a little more, especially because he's coming up on a full season run with this year and last year now in terms of 36 races. I don't know when he'll hit it, probably around Pocono, which was his first start last year. But I would expect a little more from him, but he's run well. I'm not upset with him for being right outside the playoff grid. He's definitely not been a disappointment. And I could honestly see if he starts to put it together, him winning a race. I would not be shocked. It's a JGR car. The other 3 JGR guys have won this season, and one of the other Toyotas has won. I wouldn't be shocked if he wins. I don't think it's likely, especially because we have some really tough tracks coming up, especially for rookies like in New Hampshire and Pocono, guys who haven't run there a ton. That's going to be a tough track for them to adapt to, but you never know. Maybe he pulls off the upset at one of those tracks and takes the win. Next up is Michael McDowell. I'm actually going to lump McDowell and Allmendinger together. They're minus 14 for McDowell and 33 for Allmendinger. They've both been a little disappointing this year. I'd say AJ have been more disappointed in than Michael. McDowell probably should have finished second last weekend, all things considered. So he's 40 points behind Bubba Wallace, it looks like, or around 40 points. And Allmendinger's better paired at almost 60 points away. I would expect these guys to have to win because I don't think either of these guys can outpace the 48 car. And I would honestly doubt these guys outpacing the 23 car either. Good thing for them, now, these two are really good at road course racing, and we have Chicago coming up at the beginning of July. You got the Indy Road Course, which is either late July or late August. I'm not exactly sure. And you got Watkins Glen, which Allmendinger's won at Watkins Glen in the Cup Series before. Allmendinger's also won at Indianapolis. Chicago, who knows? They could definitely win up front there. I think they're going to need to get a win at one of the road courses. Maybe at Daytona, too. Michael's won there. AJ's come close in the Xfinity Series, so I would expect them to really be relying on a win to make it in. Next up, we got Austin Cindric. Cindric's been a big disappointment for me this year. I didn't expect him to make the playoffs, but still, he is 21st in a Team Penske car. I would expect him to improve, but this is where he got hot last season, so maybe he'll get a little better, but they need to win a race, and I just don't know. The Fords have not been great this year. I don't know if they can do that. Then it's the Joy and Haley. I'm really looking at Daytona, Talladega for these two. Daytona and Atlanta, not Talladega. I keep on saying Talladega. I'm looking at those two races. Maybe Justin Haley could sneak a win somewhere else. I don't think Corey could. I just don't think Spire is that good. I could definitely see Haley, though, sneaking a win at, maybe he has a really good race in New Hampshire or even, a Richmond. I could see him somehow using some strategy, getting up front and winning one of those races. Next up is Todd Gilliland. He's definitely, you're either winning Atlanta, Daytona, maybe a road course. He finished, trying to think, I think he finished 4th at Indianapolis last year. Of course, it was chaos there, but he ran up front all day. So who knows, maybe he could sneak a win there. I would hope he's in a front row car for that race. I honestly don't think Todd's going to make the playoffs this year. I've been super impressed with his season so far, though, so you never know. Maybe he'll pull something crazy out. Next up is Priest and Amarola. Much like Cindric, I don't see them winning a race. I just don't think the Fords are fast enough. Amarola has won New Hampshire before, which is a good thing. He's won Daytona before, too, so 2 of the 3 tracks he's won in the Cup Series are before the playoffs. Priest has never won a race before, but he could always run. Well, he's been a good short track racer, and they've been figuring stuff out recently. They've been running better. I could see either of them somehow lucking their way into the playoffs with a win, but if they do, I don't see them going far. But yeah. Then we got Chase Elliott, who, of course, is a very interesting one to talk about. He's finished in the top 10 in over half the races he's run this season, but he hasn't shown great speed anywhere. He got second at California, but he was not in contention to win that race. There really hasn't been a race since he's returned that he's looked like he could win. He kind of lucked into a top 5 at, both his top 5 since he returned, he kind of lucked into them. Then maybe if strategy fell right for them, Sonoma, they could have won. They had a decent strategy call, and they finished top 5 there. And then Darlington half the field wrecked in front of him, and he moved up into the top 5. Good thing for Chase is he won 3 races over June and July last year. And the same 3 tracks are there again. And then there's a few road courses. Clearly, he hasn't lost a massive step at the road courses. And he ran really well over the summer. So if I'm Chase, I'm hoping that he wins a race. He could point his way in. I think it would be tough. He'd need to get in front of Bubba Wallace, I would say, which is possible, but he would need to be basically perfect over the rest of the summer to point his way in. He's not catching Brad at this point, where you need to make up about 200 points to catch Brad, and that's just not happening in 10 races. Because he's barely scored 200 points in 10 races, so in 9 races so far this year. He scored 247. He would basically need Brad to fall off the face of the earth to jump him. Bubba, he could jump. I wouldn't be shocked if he does. But he would need to be really consistent. But the easiest way to make it in is with the win. I would like to see the 9 teams show winning speed. If they show winning speed at Nashville, I think they'll be fine. Because that was a track that they struggled on until they went tonight last year and they won. If I was to give a certain race I think he could win, I would say watch Watkins Glen, of course. He hasn't won there in a few years, but he's run up front there. And I feel like the roles reverse this year if he's running beside Larson. And he doesn't have a win. He's out of the playoffs. Team Orders are going to come into play there, and they're going to have Larson run behind Chase to get Chase the win and get the 9 car into the playoffs. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at Watkins Glen. I would look at Nashville. He's run pretty well. He won a stage at Nashville in 2021. Didn't get to keep it because he got DQ'd due to a lug nut issue. Won the race straight up last year. He's run well at Atlanta. I could see him possibly winning Atlanta again. There's a lot of tracks that I could see Chase getting a win at. The 19 finished second at Richmond with Josh Berry, who's to say they can't finish one spot better with Chase Elliott in July. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see how he does over the summer. I think he's in a very pivotal position, though, that he needs to win a race within the next 10 races. Then we're down here. These guys all need to win races behind Chase. I was even saying that for the guys before Chase. Chase is the only guy I could see possibly pointing his way in. It won't be easy, but he could. Austin Dillon's shown minimal speed this season. I would like to see some more out of him. I think his best bet's at the super speedway. Same thing with Harrison Burton. Maybe Daytona. I honestly don't see any of these guys winning. Same thing with Harrison Burton. Just has not shown the speed. Eric Jones this year has been rough. I would say all 3 of those guys will need to win Daytona or maybe Atlanta, which Atlanta's tough to win at. Well, at least for underdogs, we have not seen an underdog win Atlanta yet in the 3 races. We've seen 200 cars and a Penske car win. So I would think it's going to be tough for them to win there. Briscoe, I could see winning a race outside of New Hampshire, or outside of Daytona and Atlanta. I think it's unlikely. He has not run particularly well this year, but the 14 team, they turned it on when they needed to in the playoffs last year. This is make or break time. I could see them turning on, especially at a track like New Hampshire, that Stewart-Haas has been historically good at. I could see them looking into a win there. It's going to be tough to beat Bell. I think Bell's the favorite for that race, but they could definitely have a good race at New Hampshire. We still don't know about Chicago. Chicago, everyone could wreck out, and he could just be the only one left. We don't know anything how that race is going to go. And Stewart-Haas won Richmond and Michigan last year with Harvick, who's to say Briscoe can't get it done this year. And then the last 2 guys who are in contention for the playoffs are Ty Dillon and Noah Gragson. They need to win Daytona or Atlanta. I would trust Gragson way more than I trust Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon's never shown super great speed at those tracks. He's run up front. But in terms of super speedways, he's always been better at Talladega. And honestly, I don't trust the 77 team to get a win this season. I'd be shocked if Ty Dillon makes the playoffs. And then Gragson, it'd be really tough to see him win a race. I don't foresee it happening. They've been really, really bad. I just want to see them get a top 10 at this point. Um, I honestly don't think playoffs should be that team's goal at this point. I think it should be. I don't know if it's been the team's. It's better it was at the beginning of the year, but this team is not competing for the playoffs this year. It's clear that's not happening. He just needs to log laps, and this team needs to develop before making the swap over to Toyota next year. Because Legacy's been a disaster this year, and then the 42 team in particular has been terrible. Um, but yeah, I don't think he will win. Maybe he comes back. He missed Sonoma because of the concussion issue. I hope he's better. Maybe he could win. He showed some speed. He was very good in the Xfinity Series over the summer last year. I just don't think the Legacy cars are good enough for him to win anywhere but Daytona or maybe Atlanta. And he's won Daytona in the Xfinity Series, so I could see him winning, but it would be unlikely, and he would need a lot of things to go his way. So yeah, sorry I was a little long-winded there. That was a long episode of me just talking about the playoff guys or everyone who's playoff eligible in the Cup Series. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel. I want to continue doing these. It's the summer now, so I should have more time to be able to do these and edit these and all that. So I hope you want to stick around and watch this journey with us as we approach the playoffs in the NASCAR season. I know I'm excited. I hope you are too. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you at my next video.